What? Oh, now we are.
Never mind.
Wait, I'll stop it. Wait. All right. Chapter 2, page 43 in the art scroll. And what page in the blue one?
Page
Okay.
29.
29. All right. A disclaimer for the class. This isn't just a class like every other class where you just learn information. The important thing to take out of this class is that we have to apply it to our lives and make a change. If we learn something and we don't make a change to our lives, or at least attempt to make a change, then it's often better off had we never learned it in the first place. So until now, we've been discussing what is the purpose of life, and we said that the purpose of life is to lisaneg al Hashem, to get enjoyment from Hashem, and really the place for that is page 43. The place for that is the next world. That's where we really get enjoyment from Hashem. And the place where we earn our reward, meaning we have to work for it, that's this world. And the way that we earn our reward of getting close to Hashem is through the mitzvahs, through doing the commandments, and through overcoming challenges and spiritual tests. That's how we overcome that's how we earn reward in the next world. And we compared it to the next world being like a palace, and this world is like a hallway in front of the palace. Now, the whole purpose of this book is to tell us how do we achieve this goal of getting close to Hashem through a perfect service of Hashem. Now, once we know that's the meaning of life, we know that the meaning of life is to do mitzvahs, to serve Hashem, so that we can ultimately earn our reward and in the next world. So how do we do that? How do we become, this is a how-to manual, this book that we're learning now is a how-to manual of how to live life the way we were meant to live life, how to be perfect people, and how to be perfect Jews, how to be good Jews and good people. And it's a very good week to start because this week, until now we've been discussing what the goal of life is and what's important in life. And now we are discussing step by step, the rest of the book is step by step, how do we get there? How do we become holy people, good Jews, good people, so that we can earn our reward in the next world? So let's start at chapter 2, and this is step 1. Step 1 is Zahirus. If you notice the note on the bottom, he says he doesn't want to translate Zahirus because no English word could really encapsulate it. But nevertheless, it's translated as vigilance or watchfulness, carefulness, being careful. So Hine. Inyan has Zahirus who, if something's not clear, going back and forth from the Hebrew to English, please stop me. Hine Inyan has Zahirus who shia ha'adam nizar b'ma'asav u'binyanov klaimar mizbonin u'mefakech al ma'asav u'drachav hatovim heim imlo levilti azav nashav l'sakanas ha'avadun chas v'chalila v'lo yelech b'mahalech hergelo ki'iver ba'afela. So the first thing that we have to know for carefulness is that a person has to think and has to know what he's doing. We have to think about our actions and contemplate. Are the actions that we're doing, are they good or not? Our actions that we take in life, is it a good thing that we're doing in general, or are we doing not good things? We have to think, because if we don't think, then God forbid, we will just be lost, and we'll just be like a blind man walking in the dark. Right? If we don't take time to think about what we're doing in life, and we spend all day, I imagine most people here are very busy, going to work, and doing other things, taking care of our families and whatnot. But if we don't stop and think, are our actions in general positive or negative, then there's no point. We just might as well be blind people walking in the dark with no direction. Page 44. V'hinei, zed davar shehaseichel yichayvohu v'adei. This is something that, for sure, logically, we have to do. Ki achri sheish la'adam deya v'haskel lahatzil es atzmo v'livrach me'avadon nishmaso echi tachin shiyirtze lahalim einav me'atzalaso. Once God gives us wisdom, right? We all have wisdom. Every human being has wisdom. So once we have that, how could we not run away from something which could cause our soul to be lost forever? How could we hide our eyes from it? Right? We're saying He's telling us that once we know that we have knowledge, we have the ability to think. How could we not use our ability to think to save ourselves and be successful? There's nothing worse. There's no more craziness than this, right? Something who has a mind, has the ability to direct himself and to know where he's going in life and doesn't use his brain. That's totally, it's crazy not to do that. He says actually that someone who doesn't use his mind to think, it's worse than an animal. Right? An animal knows its owner. Right? A cow, an ox, a dog, they know who their owners is, but we don't think, we don't know who our owner is, we don't know Hashem, we don't use time to think. So there's a obvious question here that they point out at the bottom, which Ramat Yasyahu Solomon, the Lakewood Mashgiach, quotes from. You guys were in Lakewood, right? You visited the yeshiva?
Yeah, it was
so one of the heads of the yeshiva asked this question: how can you compare an animal to a human being, right? How can you say, well, if an animal knows its owner, how could we not know our owner? An animal doesn't have a desire to do evil. It just is an animal. It goes with its instincts. We have a desire to do evil. So he answers from Rav Eliyahu Lapian that just like an animal naturally knows who its owner is, human beings are naturally made to think, right? What's the definition of a human? Human beings think and contemplate. So if we don't use something which we were naturally given, naturally born with, the ability to think and to contemplate where are we going in life, what are we doing, what are our actions, then we're worse than animals. Because animals, just like they have that natural inclination to follow their master, we have a natural inclination to think. Okay, let's continue. Page 45. V'aholech ba'olamo b'li hizboninus im tova darko ara hine hu kesuma haholech al svas hanar asher sakanaso vaday atsuma v'raso krovim etzalaso. Somebody who goes throughout life without thinking is like a blind person walking on the edge of a river who's constantly in danger. Right? Picture a blind man. He's walking on the edge of Niagara Falls on the wall on the water. You'd be petrified. He might fall in. That's what it's like, somebody who doesn't think in life and doesn't take the time to contemplate where he's going. Whether we close our eyes just because it's natural for us, that we don't think, or whether we do it on purpose. Some people purposefully don't think about where they're going and take the time to contemplate. The idea here is, and he's going to continue throughout this chapter, which I hope we finish, it's not so long, is that the first thing to know, right, we said that we know the meaning of life. The meaning of life is to serve Hashem, to do mitzvos, to live for our spiritual selves, so that in the next world we get enjoyment by being close to Hashem, to overcoming tests. And the first thing to do is to sit and think. Look at our actions during the day. Are we doing things that are correct? Are our actions correct? Now, right, obviously in this class I'm talking to myself more than anybody else. I just want to make that clear.
No, I realize that.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi Stur. You're great for my self-esteem. So we're going, and if we don't sit and think about, first of all, what's good, and are our actions meeting that standard of what's good, there's no hope, right? He's going to say pretty soon how we're all super busy, especially nowadays, and we don't have time to think. And that's one of the ways the Yetzer Hara tricks us. The most basic way is he doesn't give us time to just sit and think. I heard once there was a study. I tried Googling it. I couldn't find it. But I once heard there was a study done in the 1960s that said what's going to be the biggest issue in like 50 years from now. So like around our time. So that the technology is going to be so advanced that we're going to have so much free time, we're not going to know what to do with ourselves. Right? So that hasn't exactly happened. But the point is that the Yetzer Hara is very tricky, and that whether it's working for a living and constantly commuting to the city and going to work and coming back, and then when we're not working, taking care of our families, and even that, people spend time planning for vacations, going on vacation. There's zero time to think. The most important time is not only to think, but to set aside a time every day to just think. And it's not right. It's not just thinking, but setting aside a specific time before we go to bed, when we wake up. Like think about if I know the whole purpose of life is to serve Hashem, so that would obviously, what he's saying is that would necessitate that I at least dedicate a few minutes a day thinking. Well, my goal in life is to serve Hashem. How did I do today? How can I improve? What does it mean to serve Hashem? What are my goals? And am I meeting up to those? Am I living up to those standards? Okay, fine. V'hinei. Yirmiyahu haya misonin al ro b'nei doro mipnei hayosim neguim b'nega hamida azos. Now, don't think this is a new problem. Jeremiah the prophet was complaining. He was rebuking the people of his generation for not doing this. And he points out, Rabbi Cheskel Sarna on the bottom here, that the people of Jeremiah's generation, they were Torah scholars also. So this can happen to anybody. It can happen to even Torah scholars, people that study Torah all day. If we don't make the opportunity to sit and think about what we're doing, then we are going to be lost. And Jeremiah the prophet, several thousand years ago, during the time of the first temple, was rebuking his generation for this. People would just act and they wouldn't think, is what I'm doing the right thing to serve Hashem? People were just like horses running into battle. They weren't thinking, they're just running here, they're running there, like a chicken with his head chopped off, not thinking and contemplating about their life. People were just running back and forth, and they weren't thinking about what they were doing until all of a sudden they just fell into evil. because they didn't take that time to contemplate. V'ulam. Hine zos be'emes achas metachbulos hayetz hara va'armaso lahachbid avodaso b'timidius al libos b'nei adam ad shelo yishar lehem revach lehisbonin v'listakel be'eze derech heim holchim. And he says, the Mesil Sharm, what we mentioned, this is one of the tactics of the Yetzer Hara. There's a force of evil that's created in the world that tries to get us to sin. So how does he get us to sin? Right? It's not just like it's not just a simple thing. You're walking by Burger King and say, "Hey, come eat me. I'm a cheeseburger." That's one way that the Yetzer Hara does it. But he's much more clever than that. What he also does is he makes us. We have to work very hard. Right? And since we're working very hard, we don't have time to sit and think. And that's the biggest loss for our souls that could possibly happen if we never take a chance to think in life what we're doing. Then we're totally lost. And you see how important it is to sit and think, because you see how hard the Yetzer Hara tries to keep us busy. Right? How many people are sitting at a shiur Sunday morning learning about how to become better Jews? Right? The fact that we're here is the first step. But so many people are just busy with 15,000 things, and some of them are very important, right? Going to work to earn a living is a very important thing. But the Yetzer Hara keeps us so busy we don't have just time to sit and think. Ki yadeyahu she'ilulei hayu samim libam kemat kad al darchayim vaday shemiyad hayu maschilim leinachem imaseim vaysa charata holechas misgaberes behem ad shehayu ozim machet legamre. Because the Yetzer Hara knows, right, if we would sit and think and contemplate what we've done during the day, the Yetzer Hara knows we would regret certain things that we've done. And then once we regret certain things that we've done, we would try to fix that, right? We're all good people. And if we know that we did something wrong, we would try our best to fix what we did wrong. But the Yetzer Hara doesn't want us to do that. He knows we're good people, so he does the next best thing. He tries to distract us so we don't have time to sit and contemplate. Just as an aside, this is totally worse nowadays. I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have smartphones and the internet. I'm just as bad as everybody else, but there's actually a book written called The Shallows. It's I think it was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. It's very good to read. He actually writes how when you use the internet, we click hyperlinks. So you click here and then, oh, that's an interesting topic. I click here, I click here, I click here. So that means that our attention span has actually gotten shorter, and also it's changed the physical structure of our brains, which makes it harder to concentrate. Right? It used to be you had a book and you had to read it and focus on it for a long time, and you weren't distracted, and you could think for a very, very long time. You see it in yeshiva. Thank God we have so many books in the yeshiva. But in Europe they had like one book, and if you had a question, it's really great now. If you have a question, you could go to another book and see if they discuss it. But if you only had one,
the encyclopedias.
Right. I actually had a. What's an encyclopedia? That's good. Right. But in Europe they had like very few books. So if you had a question, you had to sit and think about it and contemplate. Right. But we don't really do that anymore. But now, not only the Ramchal is writing this in the 1500s. Yirmiyahu was writing this in 500 BC, and even in that time, people had problems where they weren't sitting and thinking, contemplating what they're doing. So you can imagine how much harder it is nowadays when, like, the Yetzer Hara is so strong, he's actually shortening our attention spans physically. The neurons in our brains are changing because we use the internet so much that it's just even harder for us to sit and think. Just as an aside, but again, I'm just as bad as everybody else. But we can be a little better. We can all accept upon ourselves to be a little better, to think a little more. Okay, let's keep going because we're almost done with this chapter. So you know who else did this tactic to get us not to think? Paro, the arch nemesis of the Jewish people. He made the work very hard on people, right? He took away the straw from the Jewish slaves, not so much as a punishment, just to punish them, but he knew if the Jews were constantly working, they wouldn't have a chance to think and to rebel against him. If they were so busy, they wouldn't be able to think of different ways to rebel against them. Paro wanted the Jewish people not to have time to contemplate and to think and just keep them busy all the time. This is exactly what the evil inclination tries to do to us. He's a man of war. He's very clever. It's impossible to overcome the Yetzer Hara without wisdom, a lot of wisdom, and a great outlook. What's the famous joke they say with the Yetzer Hara? I want my Yetzer Hara to be my study partner because he's always there. He's always like early or something, and he's very clever. Right? He's very smart, which is true. Right, the only way we have a chance to beat the Yetzer Hara is if we do what we're doing. Right now, we're thinking of the game plan. So the Ramchal is telling us the game plan to beat the Yetzer Hara. The first rule in the game plan: think, sit and think. Very obvious thing. Okay, it's very obvious, but I don't think we would have thought about it had we not learned it. That's what he wrote in the beginning of the book, the Ramchal, that a lot of the things he's writing are obvious. We just need to be reminded of it. This is what the prophet said. Place your heart on your ways. Our rabbi said, "Call Hasham or Chaysav ba'olam hazeh. Whoever praises his deeds in this world, he'll see the salvation of Hashem. Now he says this. We said the only way to conquer the Yetzer Hara is if we have a plan and we work hard at it. But the Ramchal continues and he says from Chazal that there's no way to actually defeat the Yetzer Hara. It's hopeless. The only way we can do it is if Hashem helps us. That's the only way we can defeat the Yetzer Hara. On our own, we wouldn't be able to do it. The Yetzer Hara is very strong. It says in Tehillim, in Psalms, right? The Yetzer Hara tries to kill us, to destroy us. The evil one tries to destroy us, which is the evil inclination, and Hashem will not abandon us. But he says, so if Hashem's going to help us, so what's the point? So Hashem only helps us if we make the first effort. If we try to improve ourselves, then Hashem is going to help us the rest of the way. But if we don't try, then Hashem's not going to help us. Right? We have to make the first effort. If a person doesn't worry about himself, who's going to worry about him? Right? The rabbi says someone who doesn't have wisdom, it's forbidden to have mercy on him. They say, right? If I'm not for me, who is for me? Meaning if I don't take an effort to help myself, then who's going to help me? Hashem helps us when we help ourselves. And at the end of the art school, there's a very good summary after every chapter, just to summarize what we said. And we actually did all of chapter 2, which is really cool. But we just said that the most important thing to take out of here, the first step into living what we have to live for and to serving Hashem properly is to think. Right? First of all, we have to know what we're doing. Is it good or not? Is what Hashem wants? And we have to analyze our deeds. Am I living up to those values? And just to set aside time to think. Right? Maybe even in sitting in traffic, instead of listening to the radio, if we just put 5 minutes aside and to think when we're in traffic, think about my deeds today. How did I treat this person? How did I treat my coworker? How did I treat my family? Did I learn enough Torah today? And that's the way we can improve. And just a quick 3-second idea on Hanukkah. There's on Purim, we read a Megillah. We read the story of Purim, right? Because Haman tried to kill us and we were saved. On Hanukkah, there's no Megillah. We don't sit in shul and read the story of Hanukkah. So what's the reason? So I think many people say this, but I heard it b'shem of Lev Bakst, the Rashiv in Detroit, that the story of Hanukkah hasn't ended yet. That's why there's no Megillah. You can only write a story when the story is over. Because Hanukkah, Purim, the anti-Semites wanted to murder us. But on Hanukkah, they wanted us to assimilate. They wanted us to give up our holy culture of living life to serve Hashem and to live for other people, and they wanted us to be like them, and that is something which continues to today. There's a lot of pressure not to sit and think, not to think what it means to be a Jew, and to just assimilate to the surrounding secular culture where people live for themselves and don't live for Hashem. And hopefully we can all put into practice what we learned today, and just be victorious like the Maccabees were several thousand years ago.